Hi, Black Hollywood Live fans. Today on Justice is Served, we're talking about the most hated man in America, the travel ban, and Lil' Kim in hot water again. Stay with us.
You are tuned into Black Hollywood Lives. Justice is served.
Hello and welcome to Justice is Served on this very, very toasty, outside and inside this studio, sunny summer day. What is the date today? The last Wednesday of June, June 28th, 2017. Thank you for joining us on Justice is Served. If you see a new face, it is because we do have a guest host today. Yemi, Domonique, and Shaka all couldn't quite make it in today, but Taylor is our hero. Please welcome Taylor Gates, who is an after buzzer here, right?
Yes, I'm an
House of Cards.
I do House of Cards, so I guess I'm somewhat qualified for this.
That totally makes you qualified. And so when can they catch you on the House of Cards after show?
You can catch me on the House of Cards after show tonight at 7. It's our penultimate episode, so get excited. It's getting crazy.
Good stuff. All right. And the only thing consistent around here is the fact that we are bringing you the latest in legal news every week. And we'll get started with the travel ban.
Yes.
Did you hear? I wonder sometimes if I'm the only one that hears about this stuff because I'm so interested in it, but did you hear that the travel ban had kind of made a comeback?
I've heard about it briefly. I get a lot of my news from Twitter, so I've seen things retweeted and things like that. Still like a little bit sketchy on some of the details, though. So the travel ban is back, but only part of it I've heard.
Yeah.
What exactly did the Supreme Court say about all of that?
Okay, perfect. So just a little background. There were a couple of cases filed to stop the travel ban from going into effect, and the federal judges had stopped it. And then it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, actually, we're going to let some of it go into effect. We're not going to make any official rulings on it until we're back in session in October. But in the meantime, what will happen is that there is a 90-day, oh my gosh, like 90 days you've got to wait if you want to come in, if you are from one of those 6 countries that are Muslim, I guess majority is what they call them, countries, unless you have what they're calling a bona fide relationship with the United States. So let's say you are from Iran, but you are a student at an American university, you can still come.
Okay.
If you have a family member who is here, you can still come to visit. If you have a job that requires you to travel back and forth between the two, that's fine. So as long as you have a bona fide relationship before now, then you can keep coming if you're from one of those 6 countries.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, 90 days, nobody can come until, I guess, quote, we figure out what to do. There's a hairy little question about the 90-day thing, about did this 90-day thing start way back when Trump initially signed it, or does it start now? Some of us want to believe the 90 days are, up already because the executive order came out a while ago, but the reality is it's probably 90 days from like the moment it was deemed permissible by the Supreme Court. So that's a 90-day delay, and then there is a 120-day like ban on refugees.
Okay.
And so we might not actually ever hear what the Supreme Court has to definitively say about whether the executive order to ban people from these countries because perhaps they were Muslim or just because they were from this country. The federal courts had said that because this is discrimination on religious basis, that's illegal, even though the president has the power to control who comes into this country.
Okay.
There are certain exceptions. So it's really curious about, in October, this 90-day period will be over. And so unless the president renews it, it may be like a done deal. There's no argument anymore. And so we'll never hear what the Supreme Court would have actually decided. So October it'll be a done deal. We'll have forgotten about it, or we'll find out what the Supreme Court actually thinks about how constitutional it was or not.
So I know there was a lot of confusion and chaos at the airports the last time that kind of when this.
I actually was flying back from, where was I? Guatemala, the day that the travel ban went into effect, and I got went through security because I have that global entry thing. So I like went really fast, and then I just saw like police like with like the biggest guns I've ever seen police have in this country, because I've been abroad, and you know, you see. And I walked through that, you know, that tunnel that you walk through when you're walking out of the Tom Bradley International. And then I just saw throngs of people with signs, and I was like, yeah, and then everybody was like, yeah. And so it was a cool moment. That is my travel ban at the airport experience.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy
but I
timing.
heard that they did it again yesterday, although I don't know how well attended it was. I'm not sure if it was just LAX or like last time there was protests at or a lot of different airports around the country.
Yeah, because I was wondering if that would become maybe common occurrence, considering this is an issue that keeps getting kind of reignited, reinvigorated.
Yeah, I mean, the problem the first time was that because no one had an idea that it was even coming and that it was not well executed by the government, it caused a lot of mayhem and confusion, and there were people that had already taken flights here.
Yeah.
And so maybe because people have had this like heads up that this may or may not be a thing, that more people, you know, will be, I think people are actually just staying away. They're choosing not to come here. So I don't think that this is going to be as chaotic as last time, but I still do hope, and I really do have faith that there are going to be lawyers especially who make their way to the airport, who are available to people who find themselves in a tough spot.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting.
Yeah. So let's move on to Philando Castile's family reaching a settlement. So it was just like 2 weeks ago where we got the not guilty verdict of the police officer that shot into the car with Philando Castile as he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer assumed that he was reaching for his gun. And then after that, the video of Philando Castile's girlfriend handcuffed and her 4-year-old daughter saying, "Mommy, please don't scream, don't cuss, I don't want you to get shooted." If that didn't break your heart, maybe you should go check to see if you have one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was among the most upsetting things I may have ever seen.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this makes it any better. But with the way our justice system works, this is what we do. We just give people a couple $1 million and call it justice. Yeah. So that's what just happened.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's changes that need to be made in the system, and that's like very clear, but just I'm not super familiar with like how do we decide how much money to give to people like this? Like
That's a great question.
How do these settlements work?
Yeah, because we see a lot of them come out, you know, $5 million, and there was also another settlement for the family of Michael Brown who got $1.5 million, and you're like, there's a couple of factors that go into it. First, like how egregious the killing was, even if there were no charges or the officer was let off. Because the standard in civil court is just a preponderance of the evidence. I mean, it's more likely than not that the officer, you know, murdered this person.
Right.
Whereas in criminal court, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So knowing that it's much easier for a family to win in civil court, they come at it more of like, how egregious was it? In this case, it was really egregious. I mean, nobody is saying that Philando Castile had was brandishing a weapon, was being non-compliant, was, you know, lunged towards the officer, or made any kind of well, I don't know if I was going to say it, didn't make any overt motions that would cause the officer to be alarmed, but of course the jury did believe that he made some kind of motion that caused the officer reasonable fear for his life. So, but the egregiousness is one. They also will see about how they think a jury would decide. It's a guessing game. They can also use economic damages, so they can calculate like, if he worked, how much he would have made over the span of his lifetime. And then they may look at how many people were dependent on him. And so it's a lot of like really like soft things. There's no like hard and fast kind of determination or calculator like the way there is with alimony. Alimony, it's like a full-on just numbers go into a system. At least that's how it is in California. Can't remember what that machine or the software is called. Disco? Something, I can't remember. But anyways, in that one, it's just like numbers go in and then a number is spit out. Here, it's all just a negotiation.
Interesting. So there's no like formula. It's kind of just a lot of factors.
Yeah. And it'll vary by city. This was, St. Anthony, Minnesota. Sometimes it depends on whether like the taxpayers themselves are going to pay the money out, or if the city is insured and there's an insurance company on the hook. That could change things. So there's like not a really great answer. It's like everything in the law, it's all kind of a mess.
Yeah. So just like speaking of factors, like I know that the Facebook Live thing was kind of a factor.
Yeah.
Just like in a more general sense, how caught up is the law to like the new technologies coming in for like evidence and things like that?
Well, yeah, it's been a really interesting development in the law, like having, cell phone video being evidence, and dash cam videos and body cams. How do they handle it when the body cam was intentionally turned off or it didn't work, or so law enforcement has had to get up to speed with all of this really quickly. They didn't know how to handle the Facebook Live thing. I read an article, and I don't know how true it is, I didn't check it out, that said that officers tried to get into her phone, into her Facebook, to try and delete the video because, they knew that it showed some really bad, intense stuff. And so different, there's no federal law, so there's no one way that officers across the country have to deal with this technology. It's state by state or sometimes county by county, and I don't know if any state or county has it totally figured out. What we're seeing is a lot of them that have it terribly figured out.
Right, yeah.
And so that's why we see things like this. And it's just, by this point, we've seen, on this show, we have talked, I don't know, at least a dozen of these kinds of settlements. And we always say, sometimes the way that you change behavior is by making somebody hurt in their wallet. But because this is just like taxpayer money and no one person feels responsible for that, or an insurance company, nobody feels bad for an insurance company, nothing really changes.
Yeah.
And I was hopeful that a couple of these big multi-million-dollar settlements would start inspiring police departments around the country to improve, and either they're not doing it or the change is painfully slow.
Right.
Yeah.
Like even I've just seen on social media, people are so like angry because it feels like it's just stuck, like the system's just stuck.
And it is the best thing for the system that more people are being witness to what's happening, because I think only good things can come of people who participate in our democracy. And in a way, even when you just bear witness to something like this and you take a stand in what you believe and you share it and you talk about it, you are, in a way, even though it feels like nothing, contributing to the energy that's moving us forward towards justice.
Yeah.
And so I like that people are watching, and I really appreciate that people are getting really engaged in this situation.
Yeah, like we said, technology can be like such a powerful tool socially or like within evidence.
Yeah,
like,
it's really amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so earlier in the intro, I said the trial of the most hated man in America begins. And had you heard about this guy before? His name is Martin Shkreli.
I had heard of him. I hadn't heard of this particular like case of his, but I've heard like it was a pharmaceutical drug, correct? And he was like yanking up the prices like 5,000% or something crazy.
I was going to say that's what made him famous or infamous, depending on the way you want to look at it. But yeah, he was a CEO. He's 34 years old. He's like basically my age. He was the CEO of a drug company that last year he decided to raise the price of the cost of a single pill for each individual pill used in the treatment for AIDS patients from $13.50 a pill to $750.
Oh my God.
And so people went ape schneezy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had something similar with the CEO of Mylan, who raised the price of the EpiPen. Do you
Maybe
remember
that's
that?
what I've heard. I
Yeah.
think that's one.
So in a way, it's like you can see that this kind of behavior is not illegal because Martin Shkreli is not on trial for raising the price of that drug. It is a
Yeah.
completely separate, total different issue. This was the guy who testified before Congress and was really snotty, condescending, nasty, disrespectful, like eye roll, and like you called people imbeciles. I think that's what he called. I mean, just
Wow.
really probably unreal behavior that you would ever see from somebody testifying before Congress because he was being asked about raising the price and basically I kind of think that he is, might get me a lot of hate, in some ways a hero, an unbeknownst hero, because what he is doing is he is bringing forward, making it very obvious what has been going on behind the scenes. And other CEOs and company executives have been doing the same thing,
Yeah.
but they had enough wherewithal to know that you don't want to defend this. You just want to do this quietly, make your gazillions, and just try and stay under the radar. And this guy, Martin Shkreli, did the same thing as all these other people have been doing, but he was just prideful,
Yeah.
shameless about it. And when Congress was asking him questions, they were so frustrated because there is no law that he violated. So there was really nothing that they could do. But anyways, so this case is all about him defrauding investors of another company that he was running. And he apparently took money from those investors. They thought they were investing into one company, but really he took that money and used it to pay off debts and investments from other accounts that he was managing.
Gotcha.
So this is for fraud, wire fraud, securities. There's like probably about half a dozen, I think, charges against him, and that's what this one is about. Not as exciting as, you know, if he was on trial for raising the drug price.
Right, but since he's known for both like this unethical behavior of raising the prices versus like his possibly illegal behavior, since he has that kind of reputation, did
Yeah.
that impact like the jury selection at all?
Yeah, it totally did. This was today the end of the third day of jury selection, and it seemed like there were not going to be any jurors. Like
Wow.
there were people dropping like flies left and right, and because a lot of people, yeah, they knew who he was and they didn't like him. One potential juror asked if he was stupid or just crazy. I got to read you some of these because they're really funny. One man suggested that he wanted to punch Shkreli.
Definitely get him on that jury.
He said, I don't really like this person. And he said, I can't understand why someone would take a medication that people need and jack up the price. Yeah, the judge obviously had to let that guy go. Somebody said, I'm sorry, Judge, is he stupid or crazy? I don't understand. These are not normal things that are said during jury selection.
Right.
And like 300 people had been brought in, and they finally did figure out who were the 12 jurors, but not before there was, you know, a lot of really snide comments by potential jurors. This is what one potential juror said. This was a man in his 30s. He says, in this particular case, the only thing I'd be impartial about is which prison he goes to. Yeah. Another person said, just looking at him kind of twists my stomach, to be honest, because he kind of does. He has that smug look on his face that you don't know if he's really all there. I mean, I'm sure, you know, he has to be brilliant in order to accomplish what he has. But it does seem like there is empathy missing. I mean, I don't know. I was going to say, I don't want to be an armchair therapist or psychologist, but actually I kind of do. I mean, he may be sociopathic, unable to empathize and really only be able to focus on numbers and grow them. That's what a CEO and investors do, right?
Yeah, because I've heard that he's been like live streaming on YouTube, all this stuff. Like that's just crazy behavior for
Yeah.
someone about to go on trial for something this
I'm
insane.
sure the attorney was like, "Oh my God, you're gonna whatever," and then he made the big mistake of disrespecting the Wu-Tang Clan, so another potential juror took offense to
It's
that.
out.
Yeah, so really interesting, but now the opening statements are set to begin. They were perhaps going to be started today. I don't know if they started today, but they'll certainly go on tomorrow. And then the trial is expected to last 6 weeks. That's another reason why there was a lot of drop off in jurors, is because 6 weeks is a long time.
It's a long time.
And so between scheduling problems and the fact that so many people despise this man, it was hard to seat a jury, but that is hopefully done. The defense attorney did try and get a mistrial declared already from the judge, because he said that there was something that came out in the press, a front page story that could have tainted the jury. I can't remember what the headline was, but anyway, judge didn't buy it. But the attorney did that probably so he's probably creating a series of motions that he can use later to appeal.
Yeah.
When this guy loses.
That's crazy.
So,
12 out of 300. Like.
yeah. Yeah, and actually that may have been like 300 may have been like only on one day. It may have been three. I can't remember.
Wow.
How many in total, but it was no small amount. All right, so wait, hold on. I got to go back to my rundown. Where are we? Oh, the Bachelor in Paradise thing. I don't watch those shows. So,
I don't either.
But apparently there was this whole controversy, because if I
Yeah.
heard about it, it was a big something. So
Yeah.
apparently there was accusations of a sexual assault on the show, and Warner Brothers did an investigation and concluded that there was no sexual assault. Then the meat of this story is like, how did it get there? Because she seemed pretty insistent that there was. Some people I've heard are saying that she was offered money because it was holding up production, but who knows?
Yeah.
But the good news is, I think, if any good news did come from this, that the rules have changed
Okay.
a bit on the set of at least this show, and hopefully other reality shows similar to it will take precautions like this. I think I read that they get like a 2-drink maximum.
Oh, that really changes the dynamics of the show, I think.
I think it was like two drink maximum per hour.
Okay,
which could
that's different.
Still get you to, but I guess that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then also, and this is something that attorney Lisa Bloom had come out and pushed for, is that people need to affirmatively sign off, yes, that I want to engage in any kind of sexual behavior with somebody before it goes down. And so now the contestants have to ask the producers if they can hook up with somebody.
What?
Yeah, and the producers have to sign off on it.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
probably a good thing, though, considering I'm sure since this case got so public, I'm sure there's more things that have happened that have been covered up and not gotten publicized.
That's so true. Yeah, and hopefully people will start.
Wow, that could
paying
really,
attention.
I feel like, change kind of the dynamics of the whole show.
I know. I'm sure there was some producers that are like, oh my God, this show's going to be boring now because
Yeah.
they need people wasted to be
Yeah.
interesting. But safety first.
Right.
And safety first and money first. You got to
Yeah.
watch out, make sure you don't get sued.
Wow.
Speaking of looking out for her money, Lil' Kim apparently looked out for her money in a very interesting way this weekend. She got herself into trouble, and she's now a person of interest. So not like exactly a suspect, and she hasn't been charged with anything, but they're looking at her
Lil' Kim.
for her part in a robbery that went down over the weekend. She had rented a house in Malibu, but I guess when she showed up, she didn't really like it, and on the spot, she demanded that she get her deposit back, and they refused. They tried to call the cops, but the cops are there to deal with criminal issues.
Right, it's
and
a
not
civil.
Yes, see, look, I told you were qualified to
Guys,
be here.
political science 1 semester.
Total expert. So yeah, the cops are like, we can't really help you with this. Peace out. And then apparently she and her crew left, and then in the middle of the night went in, robbed the place, grabbed the check. I think damaged some of the property.
Wow.
And we'll see how that all turns out.
Yeah, that's
It's a setup for an interesting case, right?
that's strange. That's just a whole strange situation. It
Right.
feels like.
And then, if I have a few more minutes, I got like 1 minute left to update everyone on a story that on a case that I was really excited about. It was this pink slime case. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but a couple of years ago, ABC News did this series of news stories on this product called finely textured beef by this company called Beef Products Inc. And when you look at it go through a machine, it comes out looking like pink slime. So it's been dubbed pink slime, not by ABC, but people before. Well, the beef company filed a lawsuit for billions because they said that ABC News defamed them. So this was, set up to be the most expensive possible defamation trial that had ever occurred in the United States. So we had talked about it a couple times on the show, and then I saw today that the case settled. Not a huge surprise, but the bummer is that when cases settle, generally the public doesn't hear about the terms. That's part of the settlement, so we don't know. Both sides have claimed victory, of course. When I was reading the language of Beef Product Inc.'s attorney, my reading of them, if I can read into words, was that guy lost, actually. And so I doubt ABC had to pay out very much. But this was 3 weeks into the trial. ABC hadn't put it on a defense yet. Oh yeah, the attorney, he was like, yeah, we were ready to go full-fledged forward with trial, but then out of nowhere, settlement talks sprang up. And so when you put it like that, where you make it sound like the other side surprised you with, like, they wanted to talk settlement with you, it makes it sound like they did coming to you with their tail between their legs.
Yeah.
I don't think it went down like that, but bummer that we won't know exactly how it went out. ABC stands by its story. Of course, BPI says they were vindicated, so it's a big womp womp.
Yeah.
Oh well.
We'll see.
That's how it goes many times in justice, is you're not sure if justice was ever served.
Was justice indeed served?
Right. But what we do know is that we will be back next Wednesday for another episode of Justice is Served. Thank you so much, Taylor.
Of course.
People can find you, social media.
You can find me on Twitter at alphabet_Ann and on Instagram at Taylor_Gates_.
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
doing
Thanks
this.
for letting
And
me
thank you
on.
for joining us. We'll see you next week on another episode of Justice is Served.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio, Instagram at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.